Alright, so M8, I guess, won the vote, so that's what we're doing. Now, I have kind of cheated a little bit and done a couple of laps, mainly because I hadn't driven the car in a good while, and I also wanted to test a couple of things off stream, because basically I thought they would take up a bunch of time, and I didn't really think there was much point in doing that. So I would just like to show what that was, and of course we lose that. Let's get display back. Okay. So we have lap chart, as always. Basically what I was messing around with here, that I didn't want to do on stream because it just takes too long, is just a couple of sweeps of cambers and things like that. So base is front is 4, rear is 3.6, and I basically went a degree either way on both. Now, what was interesting to me about this really was that either I wasn't driving it particularly great, or the base is like dead in the middle of a region you just don't want to be. In the sense that if you go up on it, you gain a bunch of like hot lap speed, which is cool. But if you go down on it, the car is more consistent to drive and maybe better on long run. But the big thing that I thought about the base set with the 4 and the 3.5, the 3.6 even, is that really the front is fine, kind of 4. Like I said in a previous video, that basically when I get up to like 4, 5 is kind of where I find that a lot of road cars sort of just tap out and don't really give any more gains beyond that point. But the rear normally going over 2.5 tends to just make stuff worse. You just seem to lose drive off of quarters. Now, the other thing I've noticed really with the camber is that it's not great on tracks where you've got a lot of curb hopping, which obviously this is one you've got quite a few places where you're going to be heavy over curbs, and it just, for whatever reason, when you got a ton of camber in the car and you hop over the curbs, it's just really bad when it lands. I don't really have an answer for why that is, because, well, I guess you can say, okay, yeah, you're on the edge of the tire and whatnot. I don't really think that should matter that much on a landing like that. So I don't know whether that's just a model thing or what. But I was going to do one last run, and I guess we'll kind of do that to warm up because I want to talk a little bit about the car and things like that. So what we've got here is, let me go back to iRacing. We have the baseline with 5 degrees front camber and 3.5 rear. Now, the reason it's like that is because basically I gained lap time when I went up on the camber, but I didn't really like how the rear felt. So I want to see if running 5 in the front and 3.5 in the rear is kind of a decent compromise between the two. And the reason I did the camber stuff off stream is basically because I feel like I've talked about it to death. I don't really want to do any more on it than necessary. Not when we could talk about a bunch of other stuff. So I'm just going to do, I guess, really to test it properly, I guess I have to do 7 timed laps, which is going to take a little bit of time. Let me just make sure everything works. Yeah, it looks good. Also, you're probably going to hear my shifter paddles. If it gets really annoying, just let me know in the chat, and I'll just mute the mic when I'm driving. I also messed around a little bit with getting an idea for fuel. One thing I like to do for timed races is go and look at other races that have already happened and kind of figure out the max number of laps. I saw that some races went 27 in the GTs and a lot went 28. That kind of tells me that the chance for them to go 29 is low. So I based fueling around doing 28. The other thing to note about this track and doing the fuel like that is you got to make sure that you take into account pace laps for things with rolling starts. Now I know that this being a newer track, everything forms up on the backstretch, So you don't need to have a account for a full lap of fuel. If I remember right, they form up on this next straight after this chicane. Like around about here. So you don't need to do a full lap, which is nice. Oh hey, the corner's there. I really don't like the downhill braking corner. I reckon that's probably the hardest corner on the track, actually.
1 minute 39.89.
This car is like an absolute monster of a thing. Just in like... it doesn't really feel as heavy as it looks in terms of how big it is, but... it is kind of a beast. Again, I'm not really worried about 1Xs and things like that. Unless it gives me a slowdown, I don't really care. It's those kind of landings off of curbs that I'm meaning with the camber. The more camber seems to make those worse.
Minute 39.94.
I'll read that in a second. I saw it pop up, I just don't have a suitable straight. Why does it look kind of suspect? It's definitely not stolen off of Google Images. Really? I didn't even notice that.
Minute 40.
Yeah, it's really not big on the curb hop. And I guess we'll be changing the logo after this. But yeah, for a track like this, it's kind of my thoughts that the ability for the thing to get over curbs is really what's going to make or break it. So that's what I plan to work on. Missing a gear change right there. I would describe it as kind of nervous right now. I want to give it 3 more just to see. One thing I've noticed with these GTE cars, by the way, is that the braking on them is very sensitive. In the sense of, you have a couple of lights in the car that show you when you're locking up. And I found in a lot of cases that you can sort of erroneously pull the bias forwards. Because the car feels like it's going to over-rotate when you're on the brakes. But for whatever reason, a lot of times it's actually not the rears locking, it's the fronts. That was terrible over there though.
Minute 40.52.
So I guess just from these laps, what you can kind of tell is that the rear's still unstable, sliding around. The gearing isn't exactly perfect. And the curb hopping is atrocious. never understood why it's an off track on the inside of that curb. But I guess that's just what it is.
1 minute 40.13.
Like, that corner there feels like it's in between gears. Like, second is too short for it, but third is too long. Fourth, I guess, is pretty decent. It doesn't seem like there's much reason to mess with that. Alright, so I guess it's 7 on it. I'll just add up the times. I'm not going to be doing 7 lap runs, they're just too long.
1 minute 40.12.
But I'll log the times and we'll see. I feel like I'll probably keep it at that, just on the basis that I'd like to nail down the camber and then just do other stuff. It did do the best hot lap, but I kind of feel like that might have just been me driving it better. Yeah, we'll take it. It was the fastest race. We'll leave that. I've been over it a bunch. I don't want to go over it again. One thing I would like to just touch on quickly, though, is that the reason why I suggest doing long runs for things like air pressure. Now, I said I wouldn't use telemetry, but I just want to show this really quick. This is basically just a graph of, well, air pressures right from the pits. Now, you can see how from the outlap in 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe, it's kind of still really building up a ton, but then it starts leveling off. And this is why I suggest 10 lap runs if you can, like if you have the time to do it. Because you can see between the difference between like 6 and 7, there's still a little bit of a difference, but it's not a ton. And by the time you get to 10, it's going to flatten out. So that's why I suggest doing 10 lap runs and then looking at things like air pressures and camber and wear and that kind of deal. Just because if you look at them at like lap 2 or like lap 3, you kind of like it's okay, but you'll see more if you run for longer. But anyway, we don't need that anymore. I guess next thing, let's just take a look at the car for a second. So what we got really with this, you got the usual air pressure stuff. You got a bunch of traction control and throttle shaping and all that kind of things. You never want to change boost from 1. It's just 1 and 1 on those, or whatever the tech tip says basically is most power. It does a weird thing where when you're in the pits, it'll change to 5 if you got the limiter on for boost. It reckons it gets out of the box better doing that. I don't think it matters, but whatever. Basically, don't ever change boost. You don't need to. Or as far as I'm concerned, you don't need to. Engine map is for saving fuel, so that's really up to you. Throttle shaping, again, is a preference thing. A lot of people like it at 1, a lot of people like it at 12. Basically, 12 is going to be like 10% throttle equals 10% torque, 50% throttle equals 50% torque, that kind of thing. So it's as linear as it gets in terms of just the throttle being absolute power, if you want to call it that. One is basically old school, emulating if you just basically did like a wheel and a cable. I actually kind of like one, but it doesn't matter. There's no speed in that, really. A lot of people have diverging opinions on traction control. I personally like to run as little as I can. My feeling on it being that the least amount of sort of intrusion by the traction control, the better. Now, other people have the opposite opinion in that they have it cranked all the way up because they feel like having the most traction control reduces tire wear, which I can understand because if you got it really maxed, you're going to have the least slip and therefore, in theory, the least amount of wear. But to me, I think you're just going to kill a ton of power doing that. Now, on this, I think, yeah, okay, so you can go... There's 9 settings and we're at 6. And 9 is the most, 1 is the least, that kind of deal. I guess for the moment I'm just going to leave those at 6 and 6 until I've worked on some other stuff. Brake pads, low friction. Everybody uses low friction in GT cars. Like, no matter what, it's always low friction. Basically, the theory on this is that, yeah, okay, you got low, medium, and high, but all going up on it does is just basically reduces the amount of pedal travel that you need to lock them up. And you can still lock the wheels with them on low friction, so if you can still lock it up without reaching max travel, why would you want to reduce yourself? Why would you want to reduce the amount of pedal travel needed to lock up if you can still like the only reason to change this would be if you just couldn't lock the wheels on low friction. So always low friction on that, which the baseline now has in, which is good because before they didn't used to. So what can we do for springs? We can go 160 to 300. Given that this is a kind of track where there's a ton of curbs and stuff, we're probably going to want some sort of soft springing. The ride height's basically at minimum at the front. We're at 88 in the rear. Drivetrain, we've got a bunch of gear options and things. 6th, I'm going to just shorten slightly because I wasn't tacking out. Okay, that's actually going to shorten it a lot. But we'll try that, we'll see. I might have to change that back because we might not have enough gear to pass people. And I'm going to lengthen 2nd. Now, I'm lengthening 2nd because there's a couple of places where I felt like I'd want to use 2nd, but I couldn't really. But if that doesn't work, then what I'll do is I'll shorten 3rd, and I'll keep 2nd as it was. Now, we also got diff options, coast, ramp angle, friction plates, that kind of deal. I'm not going to mess with that yet. But what we do have is we have wing. Wing is 5. Okay, you can go down to 0. Given that the baseline is 5, I guess I'm just going to say everybody really runs 5 in these cars. So, yeah, just run 5. Like, seriously, everywhere run 5. Unless something changed in, like, the last month and a half, everybody runs 5. Even at Monza, people run 5. I don't know why, but that's just constant on all GT cars. Well, okay. That's constant on all GTE cars. That is not constant on GT3 cars. Keep that in mind. Now, the rear was sliding around a little bit, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down 2 clicks on spring, but I'm going to keep the height the same. So we're going to have the same front and rear springs. I'm going to go up to 88. We'll come back to air pressure. What we're going to do is probably going to do... Whoa. The page has appeared. Probably going to do 3 or 4 lap runs here. And you all got me looking at that thing in the top corner now. I'm kind of hoping the softer rear springs will help over the curbs, and I'll help a little bit with traction out of some of the corners where the rear was sliding around. Also, I forgot to mention, based on fuel, we're going to be running 74 litres. It's calculated with an expectation of 28 laps. Well, it's an expectation of 28 laps, JRT usage, and then I think I add an extra 2 litres on top just in case. With things like colder weather and the outlap. Did feel better over that, but we are only on the outlap, so. Getting like a little bit of left front hop on some of the curbs. It does feel better through that corner particularly, which is nice. Felt a touch lazy through that high-speed corner. Overall though, this feels actually pretty nailed on. I really didn't mean to clip that. And you can really hammer over like the outside curve there, but you do have to be careful that you don't pick up a slowdown if you go too far, I think. Also, one thing that you should note on this car in particular is that the front kind of, no matter what spring you put in, just doesn't really move.
1 minute 30.
And I don't really know why that is. I feel like I might have broken it. Yeah, what I'm gonna do after this run is I'm just gonna put the softest spring in and see if the car's still like that. I know on release, basically when I looked at it in telemetry, the front height just doesn't move no matter what spring you've got in it, like under braking and stuff. Kind of shitty lap. But it'll do, it felt better to me.
1 minute 40.28.
It's gonna come up that it's slower, but... Oh, it might not actually. It was faster on hot lap. Actually, what I'll do is... I'm gonna check that, and I'm just gonna show it with Motec at some point. So what I'll do is I'll put the softest spring in the front now. And I'll do a couple of laps. And I'll just show front height in Motec just so you can see it when I get the lap. Right, okay, so at the moment I've got like 190 in there. So I'm gonna put it down to a 160. Which is like, well, 914 versus what? So it's like it's actually not really that much softer. It should be close enough. So I'm just gonna do maybe like a lap or two, just because I just want to show this. And I'm curious myself as to if it's still the same as it was back then. But on release, the nose of the car just didn't move no matter what spring was in it. Probably helped to run some telemetry. That kind of slide that it did out of there, that's kind of what I want to work on next. I gotta figure that would be an off track, but I don't care. What I would say is that if this does turn out to be the case where the front height just doesn't move, I would basically say put the softest spring in the front everywhere. Because there'll be no disadvantage in doing so.
1 minute 39.51.
I mean, it feels better. And that'll do for what I want to see.
39.43.
Pretty decent time, I guess. Alright, so I'll just pull up that on screen. Give me 1 second. Right, so this right there is well, let's use lap 2 to make it fair. So that's the 190 front spring on the white line. I don't know how well you can see it, but the white line is a 190 front spring, and the red line is the 160. Now, I don't know about you, but I would consider that is a negligible difference right there in terms of heights, because what that is that's an average of front height basically going into the first corner, so like the first braking zone. There it is zoomed in a bit more. Now there is a little bit of a difference, but not really what I would consider a substantial difference. And if we look at the splitter height, so like the very front of the car, we can see that it's there or thereabouts the same. Like there's a couple of mil in it, but for a road car, that's not really a big deal. Like, okay, maybe if it was an oval car, I'd be more concerned. Like, but realistically, it's basically the same. So I would basically always put the softest one in because it just doesn't seem to make that much difference. And it seems to help handling like over curbs and things like that, but it doesn't seem to alter the ride heights themselves, which is really weird. And I don't know why. Like, yeah, okay, they're a little bit different, but they're not like a lot different. Yeah. I mean, it's like it is a couple of mil, but it's not like it is when we're not talking like a centimeter or like half an inch type stuff. So Right. So we're gonna leave front springs at 160. Now rears are at 190, and they can only go to 180. So let's just try this. Let's try 180. So basically as soft as we can go on springs. Now why would you want to do that? Well, if you don't need them for ride height control, then really you're gonna want them just basically to be whatever gets you over things like curbs and stuff the best. And a track like this, where curb hopping is everything, springs is gonna help. But as I suggested to somebody a couple of days ago, with regards to things like springs, dampers, ride heights, and that kind of stuff, what you can't overcome is you're never gonna overcome like just the amount of suspension travel you have. So like if you got like the absolute softest springs and like you reckon your dampers and everything are perfect, but you still can't get over curbs well, then the only thing you're gonna be able to do to try and help you is to just give the suspension more travel and run higher ride heights. Which everybody's like, oh, higher ride heights, worse aero, worse handling and all this. But yeah, but if the track is like so bumpy, like say it's like the Nürburgring or say it's like Lime Rock or something like that, it might really be your only option. And I've lifted front heights on cars before where they're struggling to get over curbs, and it's really helped. And you don't need to do a lot, like a quarter of an inch, 5 mil or something like that is sounds a lot, but in a practical sense, is it a lot? Not really. But it makes a big enough difference that it can offset like what you lose in raw handling for how good it goes over curbs and stuff. Like places like Monza and that is definitely where I'd mess with like front heights and things, which kind of didn't really do that much of in the Formula Renault. So maybe that's something to revisit sometime. But what we're basically going to try here is we're just going to try the softest spring all around, and if that's good, then that's where we'll be working from. I'll probably put 3 laps on this just to get myself a base set of times. The other thing that's worth noting is that a couple of cars aside, with how kind of tight a box you're in on things like springs for this sort of car, you basically can't really put in something that's just not gonna work. So I don't normally advocate for min-maxing on settings and things like that, but on something like springs in this kind of car where you don't actually have that much to pick from, it's definitely worth having a play. And what's my opinion on Imola? I like it. I think it's a good track. I dislike how basically your performance is determined by things like that, like how well your car can just hop over the curbs. And it makes it frustrating getting consistent laps in somewhere like this, but I like the track itself. I haven't really done that many races on here, but the ones that I've done have been pretty fun. And some of the off tracks and stuff are a bit weird, like that one at the last corner on the inside I'm not a great fan of. Because I just don't know why it's there. That was my bad, I overcooked that by a mile. I need to pull brake bias back a little bit, come lock in front.
Keep her on track, bud.
You know what? I'm going again on that, because that was absolutely atrociously bad. Make Sebring or Road Atlanta. Yeah, in terms of, like, for raw test tracks, if you just want to test a car, the two I would definitely say are my favorite for that is Road Atlanta and Nürburgring GP, actually, is really good. Both of them have got, like, a good mix of corners, and they're really good for just pure outright testing. And the lap's not very long either, so that's helpful. The kind of thing that I dislike about a track like this is that it's like a 1 minute 40 lap. Which makes testing at it kind of annoying. Like if you do like what I just did, where like you make a bunch of mistakes and it's like 3 minutes gone. This doesn't sound a lot, but if you do that like 5 or 6 times, it's irritating. But yeah, if you just want to like build our setup just to kind of get a feel of building one, then Road Atlanta or Nerd GP. Because you can quite easily get consistent laps in at both of them. And the setups that work there kind of tend to be good basis for everywhere else. It feels kind of loose coming out of corners like that, like the hairpin, and I'm pretty sure that's the diff setting, so I'll mess with that in a second. I'll put 3 down on this and that'll be all.
39.3.
That'll be work fun. Now, the bit where it feels like it's kind of coming around on its own, that's completely off throttle, so that's I'm going to say it's a decel setting on the diff. Now, it was kind of scary.
40.02.
For that last lap, I'm probably going to take like half a second off the time that I write down. Given that it was a mistake all in one place and it wasn't really a car thing that did it, it was just me. Damn it!
I want you to slow up a bit, please.
You know what? I'm scrapping that. But, yeah, in general I seem to like the soft history of spring. In terms of what I'm saying about how it kind of feels loose when you get off the gas, what you can do for that is coast ramp angle change. Basically, the higher you go on this, the more it'll kind of feel free. Like when you get off the gas, and like when pretty much like right as you turn into corners, or kind of as you're rolling through them. If it feels like it's turning too much, you can reduce this. So like I'm gonna go down to 50, and we're gonna try that and see how that feels. In general, it just feels like I need more rear grip. Now we're at D2 on the bar, which is kind of softer already, and the bar itself is soft. I'm gonna try. I'll go down one click on that. So I've gone down one click on that, and I've gone down 2 clicks on the coast ramp angle. So really, I'm expecting it to be tighter at pretty much all times off throttle. We can't do much with springs and stuff because we're already as soft as they'll go. I'm pretty sure that the 180 is better than the 190 in the rear, but whatever. We can change some traction control stuff, so might do that in a second. We're gonna leave the front bar as it is for now. The other thing is that stiff bars and curbs are generally not a good idea, because basically what happens is if say the right side hits the curb, it's gonna kind of throw the car to the side, because it's gonna shunt all. It's just gonna transfer a ton of load across to the opposite side basically, and it's bad. To be honest, this isn't really a great track for doing something like this on. I mean, you have to do it because you have to race on it, but it's difficult to get repeatability because there's so many curbs and things, and there's so many places where you can make minor mistakes that either cost a lot of time or completely throw you off. Like any track with these yellow and black curbs is not great for testing. Unless you're specifically going out here to kind of get better at riding over those curbs. So I guess what's worth mentioning is, why did I change the coast ramp angle rather than just the preload and overall kind of settings? And it's really just because I don't think there's any problem with on throttle behavior, so I don't want to touch anything that's to do with that. I just want to fix off throttle. Yeah, they're just awful, really. Like, I understand why they have them there and stuff. but I really don't think they're a good solution. So that comes up like a bunch slower, but it's a lot easier to drive. And I don't really think it's slower because it's actually slower. I think it's because I've kind of taken it easy.
Minute 39.75.
I managed to stop it doing the over rotation on the brakes now, but it seems to have been reasonably detrimental to lap time, so what I might do is I might put the bar back. Actually, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try raising rear heights to try and get more rotation that way and a bit more front downforce.
1 minute 40.06.
But for whatever reason, that was a lot slower. And I don't really know why, to be totally honest. Because it shouldn't have been. I'll note it down as a set of times anyway. I'm actually going to save it, given that I haven't saved it yet. Intriguingly, it's kind of wearing rear tires a little bit more. So I guess I'm kind of sliding. I guess that's kind of how I'm turning the car. So what we're going to do is we're at 88 rear heights now. So we're going to go to like 92.5, I think. How high can we actually go on this? Let's just see. Oh, okay, so we can go to 95. You know what? Let's just try that right off the bat. Oh, okay. That would be why. Thanks, man. I don't know if you actually been like sarcastic or what there, but I appreciate it. Alright, we'll try that. I don't know about that. I just mess with stuff and make changes and remember what worked at one time and then try and apply it again. Like at the moment with this, I'm definitely in danger of getting lost. This is kind of why we're taking a big swing at it with the rear height. I'm hoping I'm gonna get like more. I'm hoping I'm gonna get like a little bit more front aero grip and more rotation just from the rear, without having to go back up on the bar in the end of the car. Because like in theory, like the softest rear bar and the softest rear spring is gonna give the most outright grip of that end of the car. Also, one other thing to note is that anytime there's kind of like a garage restriction like that with the rear heights, because 95mm is not really that high, that kind of signals to me that perhaps there's something going on in that area where iRacing is kind of trying to prevent you from going any further on it. So, usually that equates to performance. At least on oval anyway. Definitely loosened it up.
Minute 39.66.
It's kind of got that sliding crap going back on again in low speed corners. Gotta work on curb hopping.
Minute 39.46.
Actually, I just realized I completely forgotten about caster, so I'm gonna change that next. Thank you, man. Yeah, it's... I mean, I used to do a bunch of road racing before I started on all my oval stuff. And that's kind of why that is what it is. And then I started messing around again with road stuff. A couple of months ago.
1 minute 39.
Alright, that felt better. And I don't really see a reason for going away from that high rear height, so I'm gonna keep that, save that. That'll be 1.0 now. The thing that's throwing me off is I've got that one lap where I somehow did a 3, and I don't really know how I did it. I'm gonna call that V1.0 max rear height. It's 39, 657. 39.56. So I'm still struggling with this deal where basically the thing over rotates kind of in the dead center of slow speed corners, but at the same time then starts feeling lazy in other parts of the track. And changing the coast ramp angle, I don't know. It worked, but I lost speed, and I lost speed because I lost rotation. Now, yeah, I can't go any lower on front height, so that's fine. Don't know why they're 5-1. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 5. Now, how high can we go on caster? We're at 7. We can go up to 11. So, I'm going to try 9. So why am I doing that? Well, basically, it should make the car turn in better, because what happens with caster is that basically as you turn the wheel, you build turn it up to 11. I'm kind of heading that way because I have a feeling that is actually going to be the fastest, but I just want to see first because I don't want to don't want to go straight to 11. Although actually, you know what? Screw it. Yeah, we're gonna go straight to 11. But basically, what it does is you get more front camber when you turn. So, why is that good? Because basically it just equates to more grip. But what it also does is what I've found is that you end up turning in, like if you go too high on it, like right on turn-in. So I guess we'll see on this, given that we've gone up to 11. When you turn in, like it'll really aggressively try and hook round. And I used to have a teammate who, when we used to race back in Ford Mustang days, ages and ages back, I always used to run the casters maxed because for me it always made the car faster, but it did make it like really hook on entry, and he used to hate it. Like when we used to do team enduro stuff, we used to always have to dial it back. But basically, when you turn the wheel, you start getting more you get more negative camber. You actually get more negative camber on the outside wheel, and you start gaining positive camber on the inside. Both of which is good, but then you come to the conclusion of, okay, well, why don't you just max that out on everything? Like on every car ever. And basically, yeah, okay, you get the gain of the camber, but you also get like a weird jack-in force effect where you start ending up with like the inside wheel 8 million feet off. Well, not the wheel, but like the body, and yeah. Basically, funny crap happens with really high caster numbers, and that's why you don't run like 25 degrees on every real life car ever. But anyway, we're going to try 11. We're just going to see. But the idea behind it is basically it should allow you to run less static camber because you gain it when you turn the wheel. Oh, by the way, it'll also make your wheel feel a lot heavier. But you need to go down on force feedback. Kind of nervous about the fact I've got 5 degrees of front camber in this thing. It seems a lot. I'm gonna make an attempt to breed both of those when I get down the front stretch. How much does track heat affect the camber angles you use? Honestly, it doesn't. Not for me, anyway. Certainly not for oval. And for road, I guess I'd probably say the same thing. Like, if I know the weather for a race, I will always build and practice in that. If I don't know the weather for a race, I'll always practice in default. And basically, whatever works out fastest in that is what I'm going to use. And the first thing, depends on the car. The first thing for anything that's like a single seater with a ton of aero on it, I'm going to say is definitely wings. To find where you want to be for... I mean, to be honest, it's really where you want to be for rear wing position. Because that's actually what gives you a ton of the drag. And then you just use the front to balance that one out. For other cars, the first thing I always play with really is a combination of air pressure, camber, and ride height. And the reason I do that is because in terms of what I've messed with on stuff, those are the things that really make the biggest difference. And there's one, yeah, I'll read those when I've completed this lap. Also, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. I think I'm actually only maybe 6 or 7 away from 100 now. Now, The time is probably going to come out exactly almost the same, but that's because the
1
second lap
minute
wasn't that great.
39.5.
I guess now is a good time to mention that caster I also sort of throw in there with camber and things like that. And what I've noticed recently is that a lot of cars tend to favor a ton of caster. So that I kind of would throw in with the cambers. And yeah, man, monitors are great. Like a lot of people, like when I was reading about them, when I was looking to get some, a lot of people were saying they had problems with like backlight bleed and stuff on them. But I mean, yeah, there's a little bit, but whatever. You don't notice it when you're racing, you know. And I have a bunch of other questions that I will answer once I have the screen thing up. But yeah, the button is wicked. I'm gonna call it Max Caster. It wasn't quite, but it was practically Max Caster. Yeah, so if I hadn't had that second lap, it would have been faster, and it did feel better. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend Max Caster. Try that on a lot of cars. Just saying, you know. Right, I got a bunch of chat things to read, so. I've got my head wrapped around camber and toe, but caster is still an odd one for me. Basically, you can think of caster as effectively dynamic camber, and that's really the best way of thinking about it. Is that the more caster you run, the more camber you're gonna get when you turn the steering wheel. First step you should take with tuning. Yeah, definitely. What I haven't done here actually is air pressure, mainly because it takes a bunch of time. I'd have to do like 7 laps again, and I don't really want to do that. Air pressure is kind of an easy thing to do right at the beginning, but it's worth noting that you should kind of do air pressure and camber at the same time, because the two are kind of interlinked. A lot of cars do like really low air pressure though. Like it might feel terrible, and I mean genuinely absolutely dreadful, but hey, if it works out as being faster, then it's faster, you know. In terms of track heat, it really doesn't affect the camber I use. I use basically the same. Kia at the ring, that's front tire limited car, and that's really where I would kind of be worried about running a ton of camber in that, because you're already leaning on the fronts a lot. I would guess I'd probably run like a pretty stiff rear bar and not that much rear camber in that car, just to make sure that you kind of weren't dragging it around the corner. And so tire pressures, but then doesn't all the other changes you make essentially change how the tires are going to heat up? Yeah, does, but at the same time, the changes we're talking in like air pressure, we're not talking like making like 10-pound changes. So when it's like 1 or 2 pounds, it's kind of it's a decent change, but it's not gonna break everything kind of change. iRacing was fun back when Lois Caster worked and was OP. I don't remember that. That must have been a long time ago. But seriously, like way back since like I want to say even like 2016, I have had success. Well, yeah, that must have been like we're talking like old tire model stuff, like really old tire model stuff. Yeah, that'll be why I don't know that then. The only car I ever drove on the old tire model was the C6R at my friend's house, and literally the thing felt like it was undrivable. Anyway, what we'll go for next. So we're gonna keep the Max Caster in there, and we're gonna save that. One interesting thing to note, by the way, is that I've noticed that if you can keep tires under 100, then it does seem to help. But the other thing is you probably won't be able to. So just keep that in mind. A ways back, like if you're really on the fringes of it, like if you're at like 101 or 100, like or 99, it did actually seem to make a difference. Likewise, if you get to 280 Fahrenheit on an oval tire, there is an instantaneous loss in grip. And that used to be like kind of hilarious at places like Kansas, because what would happen is you'd go into the corner and you'd have like 270, 275 or something, and then you suddenly hit 280 in the middle of the corner and the front washes out. And basically it was just a game of who would hit the wall first. And yeah, new tire model 7, I don't really know what to say on new tire model 7. I've been staying away from the Skippy because it's, yeah, that's basically, it has good things and it's bad things. Like I feel like the lockup behavior on new tire model 7 is actually better, but I feel like there's a lot of things which are way worse. Anyway, I've also actually noticed my toe's gone down to positive 0.4, and I should have changed that. We're gonna leave that at that for now. That might have messed with my last result, but well. Right, I'm really struggling on curves, so I'm gonna mess with some damping. Right, what can we do? We can go as high as 11 and as low as 0. Okay. We're at 4. High speed comp damping. How low can we go on that? We can go to 0. And we can go as 11. Oh my god. Everything is 4 and 2 as default. Yeah, I don't really want to get big on sort of slamming NTM7, because I kind of expect that every time you make a step change like that a lot of things are going to get worse before it gets better. Like, I feel like 6 was like that. I feel like there was a ton of stuff at the beginning of 6 that was absolutely dreadful, and then it got better. But yeah, oh yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's definitely not finished. It's not even close. And I think that's why it's on the skip. Basically because, like, if it had gone on anything else, shortcomings would have been way more obvious. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't even think that's... I genuinely don't think that's unrealistic. I really think it'll be like 2020 before basically a lot of cars have it. I certainly think that it'll be like 2020 before you see it on an oval car. Which is going to make some people cry, but hey. Alright. It's bad over curbs, so let's try... I'm going to try taking 2 clicks out of all the low speed in the front. And then we're going to try that. Now this really is hit and miss with stuff like this, because sometimes I've had success increasing damper strength, and other times I've had success going lower on it. I'm already at the very low end, so I just figured it was easiest to try and just see if softening them even more in compression would help. If it doesn't, then I'll try the opposite way. I'm kind of sad that this car doesn't seem to have the slope option that the like the 911 and things do. I hate the pogo. It's honestly a lot of the reason why I hate driving cars where you don't have options to change dampers. That's what it's called, like high-speed comp damp sloping or something like that. Although I do actually think that going down on this is the wrong way, but... I can even kind of see it even on like the small curves. Or like the corner that hits the curve kind of hops. To be honest, I really should have just changed high speed anyway. This high speed is all the curb strike stuff. Hey Kyle.
1 minute 40.01.
Yeah, not too bad.
Minute 39.54.
Feels weird, and that's the best way of describing it, because it definitely feels underdamped, but like the landing seems less severe. I'm thinking I would have probably been better off playing around with rebound settings rather than bump.
1 minute 39.67.
But let's... I'm gonna leave the low speed there it was. I'm actually gonna try, how high can we go on this? 11? We're just gonna go for a huge change and try 7. Wait, some of favorite real life series? Well, it did used to be NASCAR Cup Series. Until we went to whatever NASCAR wants to call this new package. Although the short tracks are still good. I mean, I've been to a bunch of stuff. Like, I went to Le Mans a couple of years back, and I've been to a bunch of WC rounds in between. I used to watch a ton of British touring cars as well, but to be honest, my interest in that's kind of faded. Mainly because every car is seemingly the same in that series now. And I still watch Formula One, although I've kind of gotten tired of that too, because every single year it's like, oh yeah, Ferrari's going to be competitive, and then it isn't, so... Or they manage to screw it up in a stupid way. That actually feels much more controlled now. But we'll see when we get to this thing. The landing off it wasn't so good, but the initial hit was nice. Well, like, oh yeah, they feel really close together. Yeah, yeah. Also, I've seen your messages pop up. I'll check them afterwards. You hit me up like right after I started, so. Yeah, I think what I'm gonna have to do is I think I'm gonna have to use the rebound to try and deal with the left-hander near the end of the lap. But this definitely feels better everywhere else. Guess the issue with this kind of thing when we're messing with is that it's very subjective. Like, it's difficult for me to explain really how to kind of get across what's different, because the lap time is going to change subtly. Rather than obviously. And it's much more noticeable when you're actually driving it than it is just watching it, I think. not a great lap.
1:39.76.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I know, like, it's on static, so the cloud's always in the same place. But, yeah. I noticed that when I fired it up, actually. 'Cause I'm used to ovals where, like, the cloud either covers the entire track or none of it. I have no idea why that lap was really slow.
Minute 9.69.
Oh, okay, it wasn't actually that bad, it was just reference, because I had the 1x, I guess. What do I have that as comp? 7, I guess I'll call that. Thanks for the follow, man. Appreciate it. Now I've lost the screen I was after. I kind of figured it wouldn't be any faster, maybe because the laps are kind of there. But it did feel better, so I'm just gonna try that, like, all the way up. Actually, that's slow speed. What am I doing? I guess we'll try. Let's go up on some high speed rebound as well, and see. Overcast God. You've no idea how mad I've been, how many times I've gone into a peak series race, and you've been practicing in, like, default the whole time, and you get in there and it's 65 and overcast. Especially when you test it and, like, you find that, like, there's maybe like a 15% chance of actually getting 65 and overcast, and yet you go into the race, and I want to say in 2017 we literally had like 3 or 4 races that were 65 and overcast, and it was just ridiculous. iRacing's idea of realistic weather is the problem. Yeah, no kidding. I was watching the Pro Truck series the other night, and like a cloud came over the track, and rather than them losing time like they normally would with like more laps, because like the track temp dropped like 10 or 15 degrees, they actually sped up like 2/10. It was ridiculous. And that's at like Atlanta, where like your tires just get ripped off in like seconds.
Minute 39.61.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you hanging out. Yeah, it'll be up as either a past broadcast or it'll be on YouTube as well, so.
Minute 39.62.
I have no idea why I'm going faster down the straight. That was lame. Wondering if like max bump and like no rebound might be the way. Because the bump settings seem to help and the rebound setting only seems to make it worse. Which is intriguing. Let's try it. Let's try a bunch of low speed comp as well. Might be terrible, but I just want to know what the answer is. Helps if I actually brake in the right place for corners. Still don't understand why it's an off track there.
1:39.44.
You know, it might not be the best setting, but it seems to be a setting that seems to work. Can't explain to you why it does, because I don't really understand it myself. I just noticed that when I was adding comp, the handling felt like it was getting better, and when I was adding rebound, it felt like it was getting worse, so I just took it to its extreme. I definitely wouldn't say it's perfect, but it doesn't feel bad either. The consistency of it's pretty good too.
1 minute 39.48.
I mean, none of this is really gaining like a huge amount of time in any way, which is fine because this sort of thing doesn't really. I'm gonna save that as that. Yeah, so like no overall like no gain in raw speed, but it felt easier to drive and it felt like the landings off curbs and stuff was better. So we need to keep that and save it. I kind of just gone over 2 hours right there, but I'll probably try one last thing. Which I haven't done yet, which is just dump a load of tire pressure out. So we're gonna go all the way to 16. Now why are we doing that? Well, because there's a common held belief that low air pressures is fastest. So let's test that. I'm not saying they're wrong, because they're right, but yep. Well, I feel like we had more caster than that. I don't know. We'll fix it. I bet we can't get... No, I didn't think we could. Alright, let's try this, and this will be the last thing to wrap up. I might actually do like a 7 lap on this or something, just so I can get an idea. Kind of feel a bit bad about this, because a lot of this has actually genuinely been min-max stuff, which I don't like, but it's worked, so you can't argue against it. Or at least, to me, it feels like it's worked. Well, that was interesting. Has your money, yeah. Now that's Mario money as well, that's why you always get new content and not updates to old ones. Yeah, that's just me sucking. It's gotta go down as one of like the most awful laps ever.
1 minute 40.22. Minute 39.42.
I'm sure there's better ways over that than that, but... Oh yeah, that was 3. Well, if I hadn't screwed up the first lap, it was gonna be a lot faster. But for whatever reason, I just decided I was gonna choke the chicane. Feels like it slides around a bunch. They don't like. Like, I really feel like I go down to the softest bar. You can actually disconnect it entirely, but I don't know about that. I'm gonna do one more with the 1-1 bar and stuff. We'll try that. But this really will be the last one because I gotta practice some super late model stuff. So if I get decent, like, first 3 in, I'll probably run it out to 7 so I can compare it to my first runs on baseline. Okay, that's dreadful. I feel like I've made a bad decision going down on anti-roll bar at the back. Because I've lost a chunk of time every time I've done it, so... I'm gonna go back to what we were at D2, D2. And then I'm gonna go lower on the coast ramp, 45. Because I feel like softening the bar is just losing me time in high speed. But it's actually gaining me nothing in the corners where I'm struggling like they have been. I'm not sure why it does that coming off the curbs. Also, don't land off the curbs with the brakes pressed. It's generally a bad time.
Minute 39.2. 1.
Seems like you need the bar to keep the thing rotating.
Minute 39.4. 1.
Yeah, let's try and get 7 on this.
Minute 39.63.
Surprised I made that.
39.37.
It does feel pretty good right now. This might be a little bit loose for some people, but you could take the bar down. I know you lose speed doing it, but it does make it easier to drive. And there's definitely time to be found in the, well, time and consistency to be found in rear shocks.
Minute 39.22.
That was lucky. There was no skill in that. That was pure luck that I survived that landing. Alright, we'll put one more lap on it.
1 minute 39.26.
Yes, setups. I actually just finished it up. This is the last lap of the run. But there'll be some super late model rage racing happening later, so hopefully that'll be fun for people. Yeah, Sarah. It's a poor landing, but it's not really going to affect the run time.
Minute 39.64. 2.
Yeah, definitely. We'll probably have Trevor in there for sure. So let's add up those. I mean, I know it's going to be faster. I just want to know how much faster it's going to be. Where I still think there's time, for sure, is rear shocks, and I think I'm okay. So you can actually still go lower on coast ramp angle. Say that again to make sure. What I'd be tempted to do is to go even lower on coast ramp angle if I had more time, and go up on the ARB blades, because the higher I'm going up on the blades, the more it seems to be helping me cut through the high speed corners, and basically going down on the coast ramp angle is helping me. And this stupid hairpin is where most of the problem is for me, and basically going down on the coast ramp angle tightens the car up through there, so the two are just sort of offsetting each other. But the coast ramp angle seems to be less of a deal in like the high speed corners, mainly because you're still on the throttle, I think. So you get the benefit of the bar blades because you're on the gas, but you don't get the disadvantage of the coast ramp angle, because that's only active when you're off the throttle, basically. And actually, probably going lower on that probably will help in like the downhill double right, because it's edgy through there. So, like, I would definitely do that. I don't think the gearing is quite right. I think that sixth gear might be a problem to get past people, because you'll probably tack out in somebody's draft. And maybe first could be shorter. Yeah, I'd probably try first as short as it'll go. Second, I don't know. Second might be too long. It might have been a better shout to shorten third, and just forgo the use of second. But overall, I mean, really, where did we find gains? We find gains in camber, caster. We didn't really mess with toe much, so there's probably something there. We found more consistency with these kind of weirdy shock settings in the front, where we kind of maxed out the comp damping, but gone minimum on the rebound. We didn't get to do that with the rear at all, so there's definitely something there still. We found more time with the softest springs and things. Just mainly because it just gave us grip, but without hurting anything else. We didn't lose any ride height control in the front because of this weird thing where just the front end basically might as well be a solid block. Like, the heights just don't change, which I'm sure is broken, but it's been mentioned, and there didn't seem to really be any response to it, so I guess that's just how it is. Obviously, also gains through air pressures and things like that. You can kind of see that the balance is close to even, but maybe not quite there. We got 95, 95, 96, 95. Probably are leaning on the rear tires just a little bit, which isn't that surprising, given there's a ton of these chicanes, and just inherently a bunch of rear sliding with that, and basically getting on the throttle, which isn't great. But you know, the thing I noticed is that when I tightened the car up, I didn't get any better. Like, it didn't really help in terms of, it definitely didn't help in terms of lap time. It made me slower, and it didn't really do much to change the wear and the temp difference. Kind of as long as you're close, like I'd be worried if there's like a massive wear percentage difference, like after like 8 laps, where like say you had like 5% worse front wear or something like that. But yeah, where I think there's still gains, I didn't mess with the diff as much as I wanted to. I just kind of ran out of time. The gearing's probably not perfect. The rear shocks for sure. Rear shocks, toes, and just if I was gonna, like, if anybody wants to just experiment with something, I would definitely say mess with going down on the coast ramp angle and going up on the rear bar, and just seeing how that works for you. Because I definitely think there's a decent bit of speed to be found there. But as always, I mean, this will, like this, the video, the setup, the timesheet is all gonna end up on yeah, it's all gonna end up on the forum and the Discord that we've got. Like, I put up a Discord not really for any other reason than a lot of people send me tons of questions by all sorts of stuff. They send it me via YouTube, they send it via, like, I've had people message me via Twitter, Twitch, all this other stuff, and it's fine. I do kind of read them, but sometimes I miss one or two. So I just thought I'll just make the Discord. You don't have to use it, but if you want to ask questions, I'll definitely see them in there because I'll make a point of checking that. Yeah, well, I think in honesty, this I'm probably 3 hours in because I did a couple of runs before the session started just because I wanted to test a few things that were going to be way too time consuming on stream. But what I'm kind of trying to do is I'm trying to go through everything to sort of highlight the things that actually kind of matter if you're just looking for like raw speed and those kinds of things. And that's why I put the timesheet up as well. Like it's I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not always the best timesheet because this one will look a bit haphazard because there's not every run on there. But you know. And yeah, I probably won't be in there like chat or nothing, but I'll be in there like reading. And also, did the last run show? Because I don't think I changed back from desktop to iRacing. So apologies on that if it didn't come up. I need to get like better at this whole scene switching stuff. I mean, I can do voice chat and stuff via Discord if people want it. What have I done wrong here? Why does that say it's way slower? Oh, it's not. It's because of these times. So I'm just going to quickly delete those for a second. Right, okay, so... Actually, no. Let's put those back. I've screwed up. Right, so on the very beginning set, where average was a 40.55, I don't think that's correct. And the reason I don't think that's correct is basically because I don't think I was driving it properly. I think these next two are the ones where you are actually accurate. But like it's a 40.2, so it started off as a 40.2 average. It got down to 39.4 average by the end, so if we delete those, you can see that we like picked up like 5 and something seconds, so I'll take that. I think that's a decent gain. But yeah, I'm gonna cut now. I'll post everything everywhere, and we'll do another one next week. There'll be a poll up on. I'll probably put the poll up on Sunday, and we'll go from there. It might be a choice of oval cars. We'll see. But thanks for hanging out. Thanks for posting comments in the chat and stuff. Appreciate it because that helps me a lot with the stream and everything. Lets me know what people want looking at. Yeah, man. Thanks for hanging out. I'll catch y'all later.